Ilia Topuria has officially dethroned Islam Makhachev. According to the updated UFC rankings, El Matador is now the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Let that sink in just a few years into his UFC career, and he's already at the top of the sport. He moves up 2 spots, now sitting above Islam, who drops to #2. Merab Dvalishvili follows at 3, Dricus du Plessis at 4, and Alexander Pantoja rounds out the top 5. Some fans are debating whether Dricus should be ranked above Pantoja or not, but honestly, just seeing Pantoja in the top 5 feels fair enough given his recent resume. But let's focus on the real story here. Ilia Topuria at #1. Honestly, I get it. I can see the argument. I don't think it's outrageous in the slightest, and in fact, the more you break it down, the more it makes sense. The pound-for-pound list isn't about who's bigger, stronger, or even has more title defenses. It's about who's the most skilled across the board, who could dominate if every fighter was the same size. And in that context, Ilia might actually be that guy. Now, of course, a lot of this is going to depend on how Islam Makhachev does against Jack Della Maddalena. If Islam wins that fight and becomes a 2-division champ, you could argue that the pound-for-pound crown goes right back to him. But as it stands today, Ilia has done something Islam hasn't. He's moved up a weight class and won a second belt. That's a huge distinction. Pound for pound isn't just about dominance. It's about adaptability. It's about proving that your skills translate up and down divisions. Ilia has done that. Islam hasn't yet. Let's talk resumes for a second. Yes, they both beat Volk. They both beat Charles. But not in the same weight classes. Ilia moved up and knocked out Charles Oliveira, former champion. A guy with the most finishes in UFC history, and he did it in round 1. Islam also beat Charles, but in his own division. That's the difference. That's why Ilia's win holds more weight to some people, and that's just part of the story. Ilia's wins have been dominant, one-sided, spectacular, highlight reel finishes. He's running through elite competition and making it look easy. Meanwhile, Islam has had a more gradual path, beating guys like Bobby Green, Moicano, Drew Dober, and Thiago Moises, solid names, but not top-tier killers. Yes, Islam beat Arman Tsarukyan, and that's a massive win. But that was Arman's UFC debut, taken on short notice. Not exactly a prime Tsarukyan. Let's be honest, when it comes to signature wins, both have Volk and Charles. Islam has Dustin Poirier, which is arguably a better win than Max Holloway. But again, it's a matter of context. They're doing this in different divisions. Ilia beat Max as a featherweight. Islam beat Dustin at lightweight. They're not doing this in the same sandbox. So, comparing them directly doesn't tell the whole story. If I had to make the call right now, I'd lean toward Ilia. Why? 2 reasons. 1, he's a 2-division champion. And 2, he's not just winning, he's obliterating people. He's doing it with skill, speed, power, and composure. And he's doing it before even hitting his prime. Ilia's only 28 years old. Think about that. Most fighters in these divisions hit their peak in their early 30s. We might still be 3 years away from seeing the best version of Topuria. That's terrifying. This man is already decapitating legends and breaking records. And we haven't even seen his final form. The UFC rankings now reflect what we're all seeing with our own eyes. This guy is different. And if Islam wants that #1 spot back, he's going to have to take on JDM and win impressively. Then, eventually, we need to see Ilia versus Islam. That's the super fight. 2 champions. Both dominant. Both insanely technical. That's the kind of matchup that defines an era. And speaking of superstardom, Ilia isn't just rising in the rankings, he's exploding in popularity. He's the face of the biggest sports magazine in Spain right now. Front cover, where normally it's only Real Madrid or Barcelona players. His fight against Charles drew viewership numbers that rivaled actual football matches in Spain. That's insane. He's now one of the most followed UFC fighters on Instagram. Whether he's technically #1 or not, Ilia Topuria is clearly the sport's hottest star. And yet no UFC Spain event. Still, how is that even possible? This guy's selling out arenas, pulling in massive numbers, and waving the Spanish flag every time he fights. If they don't book a stadium fight in Spain soon, that's a huge missed opportunity. There are multiple stadiums that could house a Topuria headliner right now. The demand is real. And let's be real, the only other guy that could challenge Ilia for superstardom right now is Khamzat Chimaev. That's it. Chimaev hasn't even won a belt, and he's already one of the biggest names in the sport. Destroys Dricus and wins the middleweight belt. Then you've got a legitimate 3-man race for the face of the UFC's Islam, Ilia, and Khamzat. That's the holy trinity right now. But let's switch gears for a second and talk about this crazy rumor. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. According to Dricus, that fight might actually be happening. I've got to say, don't buy it. There's no way Paddy's making 155 in time. The guy just said a few days ago he was 195 pounds. That's not a training camp cut. That's a lifestyle change. It would take him a month just to get back into cardio shape, let alone sharpen up for someone like Justin Gaethje. Now, If Gaethia is taking the fight, you know the UFC had to throw a massive bag at him. Gaethia already said he's not fighting anyone unless it's for a Bellator for a big payday. So, if this fight is real, the UFC must be banking on Paddy's popularity, selling this event. That also explains why they didn't let Paddy face off with Ilia recently. Maybe this was already in the works. But still, it makes no sense. Paddy only beat Tony Ferguson. Meanwhile, Arman Tsarukyan is sitting there as the #1 contender. Made weight as a backup for the last title fight and said he'd be ready for the Max versus Dustin card too. What more do you want from the guy? And now what? He has to fight Dan Hooker. For what? If Gaethia fights Paddy and Arman gets stuck fighting Hooker, that's a disaster. Arman is clearly the #1 contender. He's the most complete, most dangerous guy in the lightweight division, outside of Islam and Ilia. The UFC has to give him his shot soon. One more win, and he should be fighting for the title, no debate. Now, I get it. Paddy is a huge name. He brings the entertainment. He's hilarious at press conferences, viral in interviews, and fans love him. But at the end of the day, that doesn't win fights. Ilia would dismantle him, probably within 2 rounds. Same with Gaethia. Honestly, the only one in that trio who has a real chance of testing Ilia is Arman. And even then, it's more about lasting longer than actually winning. Isn't that crazy? We're not even asking who can beat Ilia anymore. We're asking who can last with him, who can take him to round 3. That's how dominant this guy is. It's the same vibe Khabib had during his run. When you get to that level, the conversation shifts from who wins to who survives. Ilia Topuria has done what very few fighters in history have managed to do: take over an entire division. Move up, capture another belt, and dominate everyone along the way. And he's doing it all before 30. Undefeated, viral, global star. Pound for pound, #1. The question is no longer, is he the best? It's who's going to stop him. So who do you guys want to see next? Gaethia, Paddy, Arman? Who deserves the title shot? Who should fight who in a #1 contender fight? Let me know in the comments. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.